Hello, everybody. This is the Chocolate News Podcast. I'm your co-host, John Alexander Reese.
And I'm your co-host, Andrea Carter.
And if you did not know, the Cincinnati Herald has been around since 1955 and is the leading African American owned newspaper in the greater Cincinnati area and northern Kentucky area. How's it going, Andrea?
It's going great, John. I'm getting excited about this week. I'm about to go home. Well, I shouldn't say about to go home. I'm about to go visit my mother's side of the family for our family reunion. We haven't had one in since 2016. So there's
Wow.
about 50 of us, God help us. It's going to get together. And we are, I haven't seen some cousins. There's even cousins I don't even know because their parents I knew, but I didn't know them, or I knew them as a baby. Then they grew up and had their own kids. So I got cousins upon cousins I don't even recognize. So it's going to be an interesting family reunion because my we're going to make sure we honor my one uncle who is the my mother had seven. There were seven children in her family, and we have one uncle left, and we're going to make sure as he gets older that we surround him with love and kisses and see him and get pictures with him and make sure that he's honored because even my oldest cousin is getting up in age, so
Yeah.
which is scary. So so we're going to have a good time and take a family portrait, take a group shot, and do the family barbecue and some other stuff. And unfortunately, the last two members of my family who passed was my aunt and my mother. And
Right.
there were only two sisters of the siblings. So one died right after the last family reunion, and then one died 3 years after she died.
Mm.
So, they and that was during COVID. That was right when everything was about to be shut down for COVID, and they couldn't come for the funeral. So it's going to be honoring life. Well, I should say celebrate life, get to see the memorial blankets they didn't get to see, and honor those who have honor the past, and then look to the future how we can continue to celebrate what we have together as family. So I'm looking that is my excitement for this week. My sister just got in town. We're gonna drive to St. Paul, Minnesota, and have a great time, and maybe even get to see a glimpse of a couple of some gymnasts, because the Olympic trials are going on in Minnesota, and I'll get there at the tail end of it. So I'm not going to go, but maybe I'll get a spot, do a sighting. Maybe I'll get to do a Simone Biles sighting.
Ooh, that would be exciting.
Yes, it would. But if not, that's okay. I might even try to get an Olympic shot glass or something to commemorate the time period. So,
Yeah.
oh. But other than that, everything is fine.
All
So.
right, that's good. So, what's the chocolate news of the week?
Well, you know what? It's the tail end of June. We're just getting together after Juneteenth, and we've had a lot of stuff happen. I mean, in Cincinnati, I cannot mention all the concerts that are coming through town right now. Janet Jackson was just here. I heard she was fabulous with Nelly. Layla Hathaway, I just saw ads for Layla Hathaway getting ready to come and some other stuff. I mean, there's a lot musically happening in the Cincinnati and other good stuff that's happening. So I just want to mention that. So see what you can do, both free and paid for in Cincinnati. But news-wise, it's been a very interesting time. I mean, I say that every week, but this week has been, we're waiting for certain decisions from the Supreme Court. We're watching what's happening, elections, organizations are celebrating various anniversaries. We're just seeing a lot going on, pulling our attention. But I'll just say, first up is I just want to say, when I mentioned entertainment for a reason. Today, just right before we started recording this, we learned that Bill Cobb, um, the veteran actor Bill Cobb, has passed. Unfortunately, he was 90, which was, oh my.
Yeah.
That's a long life. Unfortunately, he passed on Tuesday. We just now learned of it today. Many may know him. When you see his picture, you're like, oh, I know him. He appeared in a lot of movies and TV shows. But he's probably best known for The Bodyguard and Air Bud.
Mm.
Um, which it's kind of sad to see someone of great acting, a great character actor passed. But he was well loved, well received. He had a warm, gentle face. Oh, I just love him. I'm just sorry to see that he has passed on. The cause of death, we don't know what happened, but he did die at home. And his acting career spanned more than 5 decades. And on top of that, he launched his career in Cleveland, Ohio,
Really?
and where he starred in the play Pearly Victorious, which was written by Ozzie Davis. Um,
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
He's an Ohio guy from Cleveland. We'll forgive him for that. But anyway, um, but he made his feature film debut in the 74 crime thriller, The Taking of, oh, that's where I know him. The Taking of Pelham 123. I love that movie.
Oh,
I love both feature.
we talking about the
Yes.
original one, right?
Yes, the
Okay.
original one, with Taking of Pelham 123. I think they
I, I
originally had
I think it was Walter Matthau, I think.
yes. Walter Matthau played the role that Denzel Washington played in the remake. And no, he played the detective. And it was who played the Denzel Washington role? It was you know what? I see his face and I can't think of it right now. But that. I love that thriller. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna have to go find it now and watch it. So there's that. So I'm so sorry to hear about Bill Cobb. He passed.
Yeah.
Um,
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. But also a local hero that we all know and love, Odell Owens, Dr. Odell Owens. His legacy keeps on building and growing.
Oh yeah.
Um, just the other day, Hamilton County Commissioners named their crime lab after him, which is now known as the Dr. Odell Moreno Owens Coroner's Office, the Hamilton County Crime Laboratory. That's a mouthful. Whew,
Hmm.
that is a mouthful. But his family came out and honored him one more time. So he has had a school building, a learning center, now a crime lab named after him. That is what a legacy to have all that named after you
Oh
um,
yeah.
for the future to enjoy. So congratulations to the Owens family on this commemoration and this wonderful feat. And I hope everyone who got to meet and know Dr. Odell Owens continue to remember him and the good works that he did. Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Then I am not surprised by this, but I think it's a little late in happening because the city of Cincinnati did this before the U.S. Surgeon General, and the U.S. Surgeon General declared gun violence as a public health crisis. Um, he declared the U.S. Surgeon General declared firearm violence, emphasizing its severe impact on the physical and mental health to the country. Um, the landmark advisor proposes the public health approach to tackle gun violence, calling for increased federal investment and policy recommendations despite facing opposition, because there are those who believe it is a public health crisis and it should be tackled from a medical community standard. And then there are those who say, no, 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 you need to tackle it from an environmental bias standard. Um, the root cause of why someone picks up a gun is rooted in all issues. Whether you take one side or the other, um, it's just going to be interesting to see what happens. The landmark advisory was issued on Tuesday. Basically, Dr. Murthy emphasized that the gun violence is a serious threat to the health and well being of our country. And this is the first time the government's leading public health body has focused directly on gun violence. I know President Biden and Vice President Harris have focused on it, prevention in many different ways, looking at reformation of laws and putting more money toward prevention and making sure it's getting to those neighborhoods heavily impacted by gun violence. So this is just another step in that direction, despite the rhetoric issued by other people in the country. So, what I find interesting, because of locally, We need to take a look at gun violence. If you all have not seen the story, um, there was a story written by WCPO um, about Reverend Jackie Jackson, about his grandson who was Jackie Jackson III. He is the 10th relative that he has lost in 10 years. And he is the young man who was, the 16-year-old young man who was killed in an early morning argument at the banks. Believe the argument was over a bottle of water, and he ended up losing his life.
Oh my God.
Now, what was interesting is that I participated in, well, I shouldn't say participated, but I was sitting in the audience of a WCPO panel discussion on the search for solutions on gun violence. And I just happened, I serve on the community advisory board for WCPO. So that's how I got to witness this conversation. And several young people mentioned Jackie Jackson the third today because he was a good friend of theirs, and they're still reeling from his death and the impact of what his death had on him. And the out of the mouth of babes, they mentioned this one young man talked about how he got caught up in the system. He got caught up, and how the system sort of dropped him when he needed the system the most. The system was supposed to work for young people like him didn't.
Hmm.
Um, and I know there are other issues going on as well, so you can't just totally blame the system, but they had a hand in. I know that the family was working on moving him into the right direction, and along the way there were many bumps in the road that were both environmental, the system, and other issues as well. So I won't blame the system. Um, but I will just say that it's unfortunate that another family has joined, this growing membership, this club membership of losing a family member to violence. And every single young person who spoke today said they have had several friends die from gun violence. And they they spoke about some of the community organizations that helped them to help turn their lives around, and how Jackie Jackson actually has a child, 16-year-olds and a child. And the
Oh,
one talking about him is 17 with a child. And he's talking about fatherhood, which, again, in my mind, I'm like, you're too young to be a father, but okay. Things happen. So,
yeah.
but he's taking responsibility to be there for that child, which I thought was a wonderful, um, that was like truth and wisdom. And that young man was speaking some wisdom that you would never expect from a 17-year-old. So obviously he has witnessed and experienced a lot for him to speak like an older person. He was older. His wisdom was more, well, let me put it like this. He was very mature for his age. And
Right.
but it was great to hear. But it's just sad that Pastor Jackson, who works for Moms Demand Action, and is works on violence prevention and mentoring people who are victims of gun violence, is now a victim, is now a relative of another gun violent victim. So how do you help someone like that? I don't know, but just pray for the family and pray for the people who are trying to turn their lives around and stop what's happening in our streets.
Right.
So I just wanted to mention that. Another sad tragedy, and this is about, every we always hear about the Muslim community, who every year work, if they're financially able and they're able to travel, they go to the Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia so they could go to Mecca. And every Muslim in their lifetime is required to go to Mecca. And unfortunately, I think people have paid attention to the story. This year, the heat was unbelievable in Saudi Arabia.
Oh yeah.
And I think the first initial report said 500 people died. Then that report increased to over 1,000 people have died. And there were a number of U.S. citizens who have also perished because of that heat. One couple who were Black, they were from Maryland. Alaji Worry, who was 71, and his wife, Aja Worry, who was 65. They're from Bowie, Maryland. They saved up to be able to go to Mecca, to the Hajj. And unfortunately, they were one of the 1,300 people who have died because of the temperatures that soared, um, in Saudi Arabia. In fact, at one point, the temperature exceeded 122 degrees.
Oh my God.
They walked for hours, and they suffered heat. They probably suffered heat exhaustion. The couple was born in Sierra Leone. They came to America. They had several children, and unfortunately, they perished, and because they didn't have adequate food and clothing, food and water. They were buried.
Hmm.
The family does not know where they were buried, but they probably had to be very buried very quickly because of the heat.
Yeah.
But they were recorded, and they were. I'm quoting an article. This article about this couple has appeared in a number of local news organizations in the Maryland area, but also on the BBC. They It's something they wanted to. The youngest daughter um, spoke to BBC and said this was something they wanted to do their entire lives, and they were beyond excited to go and go to the Middle East. And they were with a group of nearly 100 pilgrims through an American touring company that operated out of Maryland to go and do this. And unfortunately, they lost their lives. So so sad. But I
Yeah.
mean, at one point, it's talk about it's a wonderful story about faith, belief, fulfilling a dream, um, and they're very excited to do that. But at the same time, um, people do die when they go to Mecca, to go to the Hajj, and you just have to be careful when you go to the Hajj. And unfortunately, there are certain restrictions when you do the Hajj, when you walk around. There's a part that they walk around playing homage to Mecca and everything. And unfortunately, I can't remember if they didn't have enough water stations or they can't carry something in. I can't remember all of it. But it's something that they must, that all Muslims do. And I'm so sorry to hear about this, but I just want to let everybody know that this one hits a little close to home. But um, at the same time, what a wonderful story about faith, dedication, and belief in oneself to make a dream come true. So I just wanted to, it's one story that hit home for me, which I
Yeah.
thought was inspirational and sad at the same time. And speaking of death, one more thing, but in a different way, can you believe it's been 15 years since Michael Jackson passed?
I cannot believe it. It just seems like I don't know, it still doesn't feel real. It just
No, it doesn't. I mean, he died in 2009. He was such an artist.
yes, he
Um,
was.
he's very prolific in his music. He was perfectionist in presenting his music and his art and how his viewpoint of the world. He might seem a little eccentric is a good word. Um,
I think eccentric is a good word. It's kind of sad though how, the controversy over his life has kind of like overshadowed his music
yes,
because you have to separate the art from the artist. And
yes.
I think Michael Jackson is a very good example of that because he made my favorite album of all time, Thriller. In fact, I got that on vinyl the other day.
Oh, really?
Yes, and it sounds fantastic, by the way.
Oh,
Um,
my sister has our copy of Thriller. And I bought last year, I bought as a gift to myself a stereo so I could play vinyl again. So I'm gonna have to go get me my own copy, even though I
and,
know I'm gonna have to pay more now for it than ever before.
oh yeah, but
But
I also found Off the Wall at my parents' house the other day, so I'm just like, oh, maybe I'll find
oh,
Bad. and complete the
Uh,
trifecta.
oh yes, Thriller, Bad, Off the Wall. Those are like the top albums that he did, and it just his viewpoint. Also, did you see the documentary of making We Are the World?
Uh, I saw parts of it.
I mean, just think of the contributions that he has made to the world and belief in the world to make it better. And, all of his music talks about bettering, talk about life aspects, and also, but he made it enjoyable.
Yeah,
Um,
I will say that another good thing about Michael Jackson, his music was always very positive.
yes.
Even if you don't like Michael Jackson for various reasons, I can understand why. His music was always very positive. So that's one aspect that I always liked about Michael Jackson's music.
The only thing I still can't believe he sang about a rat, but I love that song, Ben.
It's so good. It's weird, but it's so good though.
I know, especially because it was for a horror film starring a rat named Ben.
Yeah.
But I mean, the music was fantastic. Now I'm gonna have to go find it and play it on YouTube later on, just to reminisce about Ben. Oh my God, I'm crazy. So, but I just wanted to mention, Michael Jackson. So if you have your favorite album of Michael Jackson, or even the Jackson Five or the Jacksons, get it out, play it, and or set up your Pandora radio or go to Spotify or whatever streaming music thing that you have and just reminisce about Michael Jackson and
Yeah.
enjoy. So,
And also for anyone who didn't know, there is going to be a Michael Jackson biopic. I think it's coming out next year. So
really?
that should be interesting. Yeah, it's one of Michael
But
Jackson's nephews is playing the singer.
but you know
So
what? I did see the stage play. So if you make it a Broadway musical, you can make it a biopic. So,
yeah,
I
so
mean,
that should be interesting to watch.
well, I mean, so many have been done over the years, especially ABC when, the development of the Jacksons and
Right.
Barry Gordy and everything and who am I thinking of who is credited for discovering them? The
Um,
diva, Uber diva,
was it Diana Ross
Diana
or
Ross.
okay.
That I always said I always because she is the diva.
Yeah.
She's the ultimate diva. I don't care what anybody says, she is the ultimate diva. So that's how I remember her as the diva, Dinah Ross. So, oh, oh man. But anyway, so that being said, you know what's happening tomorrow. It's about to, we're about to see the two combatants together, President Biden, President Joe Biden, and the former 45.
Is that tomorrow?
It's tomorrow.
I don't know why I thought it was on Sunday.
No, it's tomorrow. It is tomorrow. But the beauty of this debate is that there's no audience. There'll be strict rules to follow. And on top of that, even though CNN is the host, it is going to be streamed on every news platform and every broadcast system. Everyone's going to have it to watch it. It will not be localized. Everybody's going to have it. So it's going to be something to see and watch. And I think what's interesting is that Biden has been in debate prep since over the weekend. And Trump's debate prep was just going to a few rallies where he rattled on and on and on. But if you notice that where, for the longest time they've been dumbing down expectations and saying Biden is this doddering old guy. And now
They're both doddering old guys.
they're both doddering, well, yes. But what's interesting is that one's in has better cognitive reaction than the other. And Joe Biden is the better. And what is interesting is now you sort of can sense the desperation and the dumbing down of expectation. Well, no, dumbing up expectations because they dumbed down the expectations so low that the fact that Joe Biden even sounds decent during the debate, that he wins versus Trump. So now you start seeing like they're gonna, they're gonna inject him, they're gonna pump him up with drugs and make him sound good, all this crazy stuff, so that if Trump just sounds coherent, he wins over Joe. So, I mean, expectations has worked against Trump because what they thought they could get away with, and he probably thought they weren't going to have a debate, and then he agreed to this debate, and the fact that no audience, so he can't play the audience, and they agreed that when they're at the time limit for their comment, the mic will be cut off. There'll be no over talking. It will be cut off. So, and what people have been talking about the debate and gearing up who's going to do what. And what was pointed out today is how many people Biden has debated since first running as vice president and then running as president. And he has debated everybody under the sun. Clinton, Obama, Pence, I forgot the other ones he debated, Trump.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even he had some good key moments from the last debate he had with Trump 4 years ago. And basically, I think we're gonna see something interesting tomorrow night. And and I think Biden's been moving up in the polls. So that is something to be seen. But also what I want to mention, if you haven't seen this story, um, you know, out of calling out Biden, some other Democrats, the RNC is, or I should say the GOP has done. They called out Al Sharpton and blamed him for something. I forgot what it was.
Yeah.
Well, in response to that shout out, that call out, that really did not spark in a response from Al Sharpton, other than I'm not surprised, but you know, I'm it's not it's just continuing the same old. The RNC is going to be in Milwaukee on July 14th. So Reverend Al Sharpton has decided to hold a rally, a 1 day rally. Well, no, he's going to hold a rally 1 day before the Republican National Convention, which will be on July 15th. But on July 14th, he's going to speak out against white Christian nationalism, and he's going to launch the We All Belong campaign, which was actually launched last year, but it's a multi-faith it's a multi-faith campaign launched by Micah, and they're going to hold a rally for democracy um, at the University of Wisconsin Milwaukee's Helene Zelizo Center for the Performing Arts from 2 to 6. So if anybody who's going to be in Milwaukee at that time, you know where to go. Um, and basically, the organizers said the event will reject white Christian nationalism and promote democracy in what Dr. Martin Luther King called a beloved community that has compassion and welcome for all. And Al Sharpton is the keynote speaker, along with Milwaukee's own Reverend Greg Lewis and Reverend Joseph Elwanger. It is going to be interesting to see what happens, see who comes out for this. So, and I think what better response to a shout out to a negative shout out is to have a positive one. And so I applaud Reverend Sharpton for taking the what is it the higher the taking the higher step and taking a negative and turning it into a positive. And I say congratulations to him for doing that. Two other things I'm gonna shout out, then I'll be done. The first thing is I don't know if anyone saw this yet, but just how we've been seeing a lot of stories about people wanting to work with HBCUs, holding up HBCUs, and how great learning centers HBCUs are. I am a product of an HBCU, Central State University. I graduated from their journalism department, fantastic college, and I should say fantastic university, and they're making some great inroads, not only in the farming community where they're doing a lot with agribusiness, and not only looking at growing food, but also the business side of food as well, teaching young leaders on what to do in that business model. But also they're also doing a lot of work on with water, how to protect it, preserve it, and keep it as fresh as possible. So great things are happening at Central State University. So everyone should take a look at their local HBCU and see what they're working on and see how you can join them in learning and doing and or support them on being a learning center. But the reason why I'm mentioning it is Merck, which is a um, great pharmaceutical, um, has partnered with the North Carolina Agriculture and Technical State University, NCAT, to create the Merck Biotechnology Learning Center to develop the workforce for tomorrow in biotech, which has never been done with an HBC before. I mean, we do have, our medical colleges with an HBCU, but we've never heard about how to develop the workforce for the biotech industry, which I think is fantastic. What a wonderful new way to grow a specific skill set in research and development in the within the healthcare medical community or research community. So I applaud them on this launch and this collaboration, and I hope it is a huge success. And that being said, I just want to do a shout out and congratulations to Cincinnati's own Wayne Box Miller. You probably can hear him on the WLW Bengals radio network pregame and halftime and post game host for WDBZ Sports. Um, and he's also the DEI director at St. Xavier High School. He, all along with John Popovich, Betsy Ross, George Vogel, Ken Barnett, Ken Brew, Paul Dougherty, John Fay, and Dennis Jansen, are all being entered into the Society for Professional Journalists Hall of Fame here in Cincinnati. And that induction dinner is going to happen Monday, September 16th, at the Great American Ballpark. And tickets are $75, but I think they're going to go fast because there are some great guys in our sports history. Wayne Box Miller is the only Black within the sports journalism genre in the Cincinnati Hall of Fame to be inducted for this, which is wonderful and sad at the same time. But he is with a great group of people. I've watched them all deliver their sports commentary and articles over time. So I just want to let everyone know and say congratulations, Wayne. He's a great guy. He's a lover of sports, and congratulations. And that is all the chocolate news for today.
Okay, well, thank you, Andrea. And that's it for today's show. I want to thank Andrea again for all the good chocolate news.
It's my pleasure.
And remember, folks, you can find out more information about today's topics and past podcast episodes at www.thecincinnatiherald.com, the Session newsletter, or on our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Threads. And make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. Our podcast is on Apple, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Amazon, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. I'm John Alexander Reese,
And I'm Andrea Carter.
and have a good day.